In this exclusive interview, Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the PC party here in Canada, explains many issues going on at this moment, including Canadian housing market in Canada.
I can't see how we're not going to have major defaults. So I'm watching very carefully to see what we can do to mitigate the pain. But unfortunately, this is the nightmare economy that our Prime Minister has created.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh Tavares, investor and realtor with eXp Realty Brokerage. It'd be so great if you can help us out and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to get updates on our newly uploaded content. And if you know anyone who's looking to buy, sell, invest, not only just here in Canada, but anywhere internationally, feel free to let us know. With eXp Realty, we are a cloud-based brokerage where we're in over 22 countries and we're able to get referrals. We have a massive referral network of real estate agents all over the world, so we'll be able to help you, and no border is too big, but we'll be able to provide assistance and refer you to the right real estate agent that'll get the job needed for any of your needs. And without further ado, guys, let's begin. In today's video, we're going to talk about the housing market, the 1.4 million immigration that's taking place over the next 3 years, as well as buyers on the sidelines thinking of making a move based on the correction that's taken place. Here's the problem with the PC leader Pierre Poilievre's perspective in terms of housing starts and supply and demand.
I do believe that we all agree that in Canada, the supply problem is not because of the market, it's because of government. Local and provincial governments that block housing construction make us among one of the slowest places on planet Earth to get a building permit. That means that no matter how much money rushes into the market, there's not enough supply to keep up. And in Vancouver, $650,000 of the price of a new unit of housing is government. Delays, charges, fees, etc. And so I'm going to say to the big city gatekeepers, you want more infrastructure money, you've got to get out of the way, lower the cost, increase the speed of building permits so that we can add millions of new homes. I'm also going to sell off 15% of the 37,000 federal buildings to convert those into housing, so we have more supply there.
With regards to housing supply and demand, Pierre mentioned some of the issues taking place, such as the city governing officials taking a longer time in terms of the lengthy approval process for homes to be built from developers. He says it doesn't matter how much money you pump into this, essentially the supply and demand will continue to stay the same because the lengthy process is making it very difficult for housing to be created and to be able to meet the levels needed to reach supply and demand concerns. It sounds as though Pierre is hinting at the Liberals' housing plan. Back in April of 2022, the federal government had announced that by 2027 to 2028, the federal government was expecting to have about $72 billion in support funds used for the National Housing Strategy. And it states the funds will be divided into different categories. Pierre Poilievre does not believe that the housing issue that we're having today is essentially all of the buyers gobbling up all of the inventory. He is leaning towards a different direction.
Investors who have an obvious capital advantage over first-time home buyers from simply gobbling up that supply. How does your government address the demand side?
Well, first of all, let's talk about why we have a demand side problem, and it was a central bank problem. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look at my column in the National Post, where I reprinted the Bank of Canada's graph on mortgages by home buyer type. And from the time the Bank of Canada started its money printing orgy in spring of 2020 until about 6 months ago, investors had increased the number of mortgages they had taken out by 100%. Now, why? Well, obviously because the central bank was buying up $400 billion worth of bonds, which injects enormous cash into the financial system, which is lent out principally to those who have more credit history or connections to the financial system, and that is the investor class. And that was what drove the excessive demand in our real estate over the last year. So thank God the quantitative easing money printing program is done. I hope that we're going back to a normal free market in mortgage credit because that will hopefully remove the enormous distortion that has caused the problem of the last several years.
There's two reasons why there is a massive supply and demand issue. Essentially, the Bank of Canada was lowering interest rates so much that the Bank of Canada were essentially buying the Canada-backed bonds from major banks. All the lending institutions have reserves for every dollar that they lend out mortgages to Canadians that they have to have based on the financial policy. These lending institutions have capital reserves for every dollar they loan out through mortgages to Canadians. And with the government buying up all the bonds, this gave the lending institutions a lot more money to play with that they could use to loan out through mortgages to many investors, as well, of course, buyers as well. And real estate investors took a massive opportunity with this and had seen loans from investor side go up over 200% since the pandemic. The second reason for the massive housing supply and demand concerns was the Bank in Canada keeping the interest rates so low, incentivizing buyers as well as investors to purchase either more property or get into their first property, making it even easier to loan out more funds than we're currently seeing in the market today. With an environment with less interest rates and higher inflation, it is more incentivizing for people to take out larger mortgages, be able to afford more property than they were before, essentially increasing the cost of housing because it becomes easier to receive lending and you're able to receive more housing than you were prior. So, of course, many people were taking advantage of this opportunity that had essentially never taken place and having rates completed so low in history. Another thing to look at here is the massive migration taking place with over 500,000 people migrating per year to Canada and how that impacts services as well as the supply and demand and housing. And this is actually Pierre Poilievre's perspective.
Okay, well, first of all, I would say immigrants are not the problem in the housing market. We have more land in Canada where there's no one than we have land where there's anyone. We have the most, I think, the fourth most per capita acreage of land on planet Earth. So it's not like we're Singapore or Hong Kong where we're just running out of places to put people. We have lots of space. The problem is the government gatekeepers that prevent us from building things. As for healthcare, well, we're going to need immigrants in the medical professions. As nurses and doctors. The problem again is the gatekeepers who prevent them from getting licensed to work when they get here.
Pierre states that immigration is not the problem for what's taking place in the housing supply and demand concerns because we're going to need mass amounts of people to migrate to fulfill a lot of jobs that are actually on decline because there are a massive amount of individuals from the baby boomer Gen X generation that are on the cusp of retiring, such as nurses, we're looking at contractors, people in the trades, anything as such. So if anything, it's going to be important to have those jobs replaced through immigration. Pierre Poilievre was asked if there was a market crash, would he bail out homeowners? And here's his answer.
Is there ever a point in which you'd bail out homeowners?
Well, look, I don't want to speculate on that. I think that government intervention is what caused the problem in the first place. But we're going to have to wait and see. We don't yet know the full consequences of this radical experiment that Trudeau sent the central bank on, right? There was this enormous buildup in debt and housing prices as the money flooded into the economy. Now that they're pulling back that money and the rates are rising, I just can't see how we avoid, unfortunately, bankruptcies and repossessions because people who bought variable rate mortgages with adjustable monthly payments at 2.5% or lower, actually it was down to 1.6% at one point for variables, they're now paying 3 or 4 or 5. I can't see how we're not going to have major defaults. So I'm watching very carefully to see what we can do to mitigate the pain. But unfortunately, this is the nightmare economy that our Prime Minister has created.
Pierre believes there's going to be many foreclosures, bankruptcies, as well as defaults. We're just going to have to wait and see. And for all of the people who took advantage of the low interest rates that were taking place, obtaining mass amounts of mortgage and debt, it becomes a lot harder to make the payments today because interest rates have gone up substantially since the low rates that were taking place about a year to 2 years prior. Carolyn Rogers, the deputy of the Bank of Canada, had this to say with regards to mortgage foreclosures in front of the Canadian Senate.
So what we are hearing from banks and what we are seeing in the data that we gather, we aren't seeing an uptick in defaults, but we're conscious that there is a lag. Defaults are really a lagging indicator. Any good bank regulator would tell you that. Banks are being proactive in reaching out to their borrowers. That's the other thing they're telling us, and making sure they work with borrowers. It's not in a bank's interest for borrowers to go into default. So I think they are actively working with the portion of borrowers that are feeling stressed by the higher interest rates. rates.
Carolyn Rogers states that is a lagging indicator and will only see the effects down the road. Foreclosures are a very expensive process for banks, and they're open and willing to work with homeowners in order to help relieve the stress taking place in today's environment. I hope that video was super helpful, insightful, and gives you all the information needed in regards to the interview with Pierre Poilievre's perspective on housing and everything as such with immigration as well. Josh Savaris, investor and realtor at the XP Realty Brokerage. Remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to get updates on our newly uploaded content. And if you guys are looking to invest in cash flowing US real estate, let us know in the comments. Let's book an appointment and let's get you started on your way. And as well, if you know anyone who's looking to buy, sell in any state or province with eXp Realty, we are a global brokerage all over the world. We're actually digital because we actually work on the cloud. We have access to real estate agents all over the world. So if you know anyone or need a real estate agent for any of your needs or friends and family's needs, feel free to reach out at any point. Josh Savaris, investor and realtor. Take care.